It is straight up panic mode for these guys in fantasy football. We're going to tell you what you should do with them and also if you should weather the storm on the guys who didn't really do in week 1 what you thought they might do. Let's start with Kenneth Walker. Not going to lie to you, I thought Zach Charbonnet was going to be the lead back there. And in week 1, at least, he was. Now, it doesn't mean that Zach Charbonnet is going to be the lead back the entire season. But let's look at this chart that tells us about the running back distribution of snaps in week 1. As you can see, in terms of all plays, Zach Charbonnet had 50% more snaps than Kenneth Walker in week 1, 30-21. On early downs, it was Walker, yes, but on the goal line, it was Charbonnet, and that's important. When you're looking at goal line and third down and Charbonnet dominating those two very important categories of snaps because goal line, of course, touchdown upside, third downs, passing, it was Charbonnet. 2-minute drill, even. That's also a very advantageous running back snap share. It's Charbonnet. Charbonnet straight up was the number 1 back there in Seattle this week. Now, again, it's way too early to say that what we said in the offseason, if it's come true or not. But what we suspected during the offseason was that since this coaching regime was completely new and a new offensive coordinator, things like that, they had no ties to Kenneth Walker. They did not draft Kenneth Walker. They're going to go with the best running back there. And truthfully, we believe that Zach Charbonnet is as good a running back as Kenneth Walker. They're good at different things. But in terms of who you can use the most, I think it's Zach Charbonnet. I think Zach Charbonnet is just as good in the goal line. Obviously, Kenneth Walker is better at things like explosive plays, things like that. But for fantasy football purposes, you were drafting Kenneth Walker in the 4th round. And Kenneth Walker didn't even have the lead back role this weekend. And this is full-up blown panic mode. And so here's the truth of it. Kenneth Walker was not a guy that I drafted any of this year. Do you have any Kenneth Walker shares?
0.
Don't have any Kenneth Walker. If you have Kenneth Walker, here's what I would recommend doing. I would recommend shopping Kenneth Walker. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, oh, it's so stupid to sell low. I honestly don't think that people are going to be selling low, or I don't think people are going to be expecting to buy low on Kenneth Walker. I think people are just thinking, okay, this is a 1-week thing, so we'll see where it goes from here. If you can get out on Walker for 4th round prices like you drafted him, doing it in a heartbeat. Again, I preferred all those guys in the 4th round over Walker anyways. I mean, I think the ship has sailed with Breece Hall, but Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, I mean, there were most of the drafts at the end of the end of the offseason. Breece Hall was actually going behind Kenneth Walker, which is, in hindsight, I hope we realize a little bit absurd after Breece looks good today. But with Kenneth Walker, the panic meter, let's go with if I own Kenneth Walker, I would be panicking at an 8 right now. I would be panicking at an 8 out of 10.
Freaking out.
So I don't blame you for freaking out on this one in terms of what you should do. Look, you probably have to hold if people are going to try to buy low. Of course, don't sell super low on Kenneth Walker. He does still have upside. If Charbonnet, something happens to him, it's going to be Kenneth Walker only. There's nobody else in that backfield. He does still have explosive playability. He's still going to have big weeks. He's still going to be productive. He's still going to be somebody you're starting. He is. But this is concerning to say the least. That really is the point here. And I am panicking on Kenneth Walker if I had him. And I do think that Zach Charbonnet, there is real reason to believe that he could take a huge chunk of work from Kenneth Walker this season, as I believe those are both very talented backs. But I think Charbonnet, again, has proven he can stay healthy. He's better on the goal line. And I think also outside of early downs, you're going to see Charbonnet kind of run that backfield a little bit. Call it an overreaction. I think it's going to happen.
My panic meter would probably be 110 if I were an Isaiah Pacheco owner, and I'm not an Isaiah Pacheco owner either in any of my fantasy leagues for this very reason. This is also what I expected to be a potential possibility heading into the season for Pacheco and Hunt and Brashard Smith, who also got some snaps in that offense as well in Kansas City. This backfield is ugly, and I think it's going to be ugly for most of the year. I think the ship has sailed with Isaiah Pacheco being like a consistent bell cow like you saw earlier in his career. He got banged up too much. He missed too much time, and that's something that I don't think the Chiefs are willing to sacrifice, the risk of him missing time versus having him for a limited amount of time every single week all season, right? It's more valuable for that offense, for that NFL team to just have him available than to not have him available. And again, for your fantasy team, that's going to suck. Now, am I going to go sell so low on Isaiah Pacheco that I can get like Jaylen Warren for him back? Or even less than that, like a Dylan Sampson. No, I'm not going to do that. This is one where, like, as opposed to Kenneth Walker, I think people are panicking on Isaiah Pacheco like I am, more so than with Walker, where I think it does merit just holding him right now. Because one thing that we didn't necessarily see in the Friday night game that we will see in future matchups is who really is going to get those consistent red zone carries. We didn't really get a chance to see that this year or this in week 1 for the Chiefs because they weren't in the red zone that much. And a lot of their touchdowns came from like big plays and stuff. One of them was a rushing touchdown from Mahomes. The other one was a big play from Travis Kelce. And it was just an ugly day overall for them as their whole game plan was kind of thrown upside down with Xavier Worthy leaving the game very early. So with Pacheco, Panic, yes, but there's nothing you can do about it. You got to hold on to him right now until we really see how that backfield is going to pan out in the red zone specifically.
Nico Collins is a guy that, look, you look at him in week 1, and he only had 5 points for your fantasy football team. In a game against the Rams that, honestly, from a Vegas standpoint, we thought would be a little bit higher scoring than it was. The fact of the matter is, my panic meter on Nico Collins is about a 3, maybe a 2. I'm honestly not panicking on Nico, and here's why.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the utilization
a
for
3
Nico
or 2
Collins,
out of 100, right?
We're doing out of 10.
Oh, I said 110. I was doing out of 100.
Well, you're just, I mean, so you thought that with Kenneth Walker, I'm concerned an 8 out of 100.
I thought you said 80.
No, I said 8.
No way.
Don't leave
Wow.
this in here,
Okay,
just
cool.
so you guys can see
dang.
what I deal with.
Totally
sometimes.
misheard.
All right, Nico. Here's why I'm encouraged with Nico. I'm not worried about this. Number one, Nico has games like this. Like, we know that this is Nico Collins. This should not surprise you if you're a Nico owner, right? Nico Collins, oh man, this is a new thing where he has 5-point games and he doesn't really do anything. Not really. Last year, I mean, he missed a bunch of games, but he had a game of 8 points. He had a game of 9 points. He had a game of 12 points. When you're looking at, 2023, even when he was, still hit or miss, he had 2 points in one of the weeks, had 6 points in one of the weeks, had 5 points in one of the weeks. Nico does this sometimes. And Nico being a big play wide receiver, he is a little bit more prone to be boom or bust. You drafted him with that in mind. You drafted him knowing that your floor score on your fantasy football team was going to be lower because you were drafting Nico Collins. And this week, you saw the floor. And that's just going to happen. That is the price of owning Nico Collins. The upside of owning Nico Collins is when he scores 30 points. And I guarantee you in one of these, weeks in the next 4, he's going to have 25 to 30 points in at least one of those weeks. It's just what Nico does.
Yeah.
And so I'm not panicking on Nico. Yeah, it's unfortunate that starting the season, we had to see a Nico Collins down week. We had to see a Nico Collins, in terms of utilization, I do want to talk about kind of the bright sides here. But like from a production standpoint, again, we're not very encouraged because 5 targets, 3 receptions, only for 25 yards. In terms of how he was utilized compared to the other receivers, though, he's the clear number 1 there. I mean, we're not worried about any of this. He's on the field for 44 out of 50 of the 3 wide receiver sets they ran, 9 out of the 12 2 wide receiver sets they ran. I mean, he's the guy. Nico is the guy there. And so there's nothing to be concerned about from a utilization standpoint. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about from an offensive standpoint. And I honestly don't think also that Nico Collins in general, I honestly don't think this is too out of characteristic for him. I think this is just what Nico does. And so if you have Nico, don't panic at all. You're going to weather the storm. I don't think that many people are panicking on Nico, but just in case you are, I'd go 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, one of those, and I would pretty comfortably say that I think Nico is going to be just fine for the rest of the season. I'm not worried about it at all.
Yeah. I would be panicking about Tyreek Hill a good amount here based on the investment that a lot of people, again, wanted to take him in the 3rd. We're happy to take him there, which honestly I understand. But again, there's a reason that I did not have any Tyreek Hill shares when it was all said and done in any of my fantasy leagues. And this was case in point why. Again, week 1, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 40 yards, and 8 points. Look, he's going to get volume. He's the wide receiver 1 there. Here's the reality, though. This is not the Tyreek Hill of 2022. This is not the Tyreek Hill of 2023.
We knew this.
This is just a less explosive, older version of Tyreek Hill that might just be this year and not a league winner. And that might not be a league losing pick. I wouldn't go as far as saying that after week 1. Tyreek Hill is going to have good weeks. He is. He's going to have really solid weeks where he's going to get touchdowns. He's going to have a couple explosive plays. But those explosive plays are starting to be fewer and far between than we've ever seen, really, in his entire career. And that's, again, just the reality of a 31-year-old wide receiver who really, his entire career was built off of his speed. And when you start losing that, when you miss a step, you saw this with his efficiency metrics as a route runner. Last season, they were a significant step down from what we'd ever seen in the past. The writing was kind of on the wall here. And again, I know we're going to go into week 2 and he's going to have a 30-point game. It's just going to be our luck. But that's why I'm not going to say sell Tyreek Hill. This is another one where I'd say just hold Tyreek Hill and hope that he doesn't get injured. And again, if he doesn't have any injury issues this year, he's probably going to end up being like a high-end wide receiver 2 or something like that. He really is going to be fine, but he's not going to, I don't think we're expecting him to be a league winner, which is why, like, if you drafted him to be that, I'd be a little panicky with Tyreek Hill right now.
What's your out of 10 panic meter for Tyreek?
Probably like a 5. I'll go right
I
in
was
the
going to
middle.
say 5 is pretty. Yeah. 5 is pretty reasonable. Okay, I'm going to give you another one we're not really panicking on, but a lot of people are. It's Ladd McConkey. I think the reason a lot of people are panicking on Ladd is because when you're looking at the other guys in that offense.
0 for Ladd.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it's a 1 out of 10. Do not panic on Ladd McConkey.
Yeah.
in terms of the guys who were around him, Quentin Johnson obviously had 25 points, but he had 2 touchdowns. Keenan Allen had 20. Ladd McConkey, being the third most productive wide receiver in that offense, was not on my bingo card for week 1. But also what wasn't on my bingo card for week 1 was them throwing the ball as many times as they did. 34 times they threw the ball. Actually, yeah, it was 34 times, I think. I mean, Herbert was absolutely slinging it too. He looked great. But the fact of the matter is, when you're looking at their game plan against the Kansas City Chiefs, they knew good and well, just like we knew good and well, and you knew good and well, that running the football against this team was straight up not going to be an option. It wasn't going to be. And so they were taking advantage of it, because really where Kansas City actually struggles a little bit is their secondary. And schematically, what Greg Roman was able to do through that offense, it was very encouraging. Now, I will say, if Greg Roman can consistently scheme up a passing game like this, I mean, that's going to be a game changer for these receivers. Yeah. Maybe we do see a productive wide receiver 2 in this offense for the first time. I'm not betting the farm on it, though. And still, the wide receiver 1 in this offense is Ladd McConkey. From a snap share standpoint, he had the most snaps. From a target share standpoint, he was 1 target behind Keenan Allen. From a reception standpoint, 1 reception behind Keenan Allen. From a yard standpoint, he was right there in between them. He just didn't have a touchdown. The other guys did. That's the difference. And the fact of the matter is, Ladd McConkey is objectively going to have a higher floor than Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen on a week-to-week basis. And that's really what makes Ladd McConkey elite, especially in fantasy football, is the fact that you know that Ladd McConkey is going to get you a minimum of 10 to 12 points. And really, you saw 13. That's probably Ladd's floor, is 10 to 12 points. And so I'm not panicking on Ladd because he's the most highly utilized wide receiver in that offense. He's in what looks to be a top 6 offense in the NFL. They looked fantastic. Greg Roman looks like he's killing it there. I'm not going to lie. That offense looked really good, and Herbert looked as good. In fact, if anything, you should be encouraged about what you saw. Those guys, Johnson and Allen, are not going to always get the targets they got. And if Herbert looks as good as he did, that's a good thing for Ladd McConkey. Herbert playing that well will absolutely elevate Ladd McConkey in terms of his fantasy football ceiling this year and his production. So with Ladd, my panic again is at a 1 out of 10. There's no reason to panic on Ladd McConkey. I know he only had a pedestrian 13.4 points for a guy you drafted in the 2nd round. No panic here. Ladd McConkey is just fine. If you have him, I think he's going to be great for you this year. I'm a little bit more panicked about the next guy, though.
Yeah, Tyrone Tracy, look, I'm not going to go out here and say, like, oh, Tyrone Tracy is not the running back 1. Like, he very clearly was in terms of the consistent opportunity that he got compared to everyone else in that offense in week 1. But I will say Cam Skittle is going to be breathing down his neck. And when you're looking at the entire course of the season. So when you look at the splits in week 1, again, it was Tracy's in the early downs and total plays, goal line, 3rd down, short yardage. It wasn't even close. And actually, Scatterbo and Singletary pretty much split in every single one of those metrics. Singletary got the 3rd down and the short yardage usage. But when you're looking at just what Tyrone Tracy was able to do with the opportunity that he got, the unquestioned number 1 opportunity there, 10 carries, 24 yards, 5 targets, 2 receptions, 11 yards. Wildly inefficient. In a matchup that really, like, it's Washington. Yes, they're a good team, but, like, this wasn't anything that was like, oh, this is so not friendly for running backs to be productive, for Tracy to be productive. I'm worried about Tyrone Tracy. I mean, I would probably go as high as like a 6. Again, this didn't show me that Tyrone Tracy isn't the running back 1 right now. This showed me that Tyrone Tracy is absolutely vulnerable. 100% he is. And you saw it again. I think everyone in that offense is vulnerable. You saw Brian Dable come out and he's non-committal about Russell Wilson starting week 2. Already.
He was non-committal in week 1. They already said before week 1 they had packages for Jackson
This is the best case scenario for everyone behind Tyrone Tracy in that backfield and everyone on that offense, period. When Brian Dable when a head coach is on the hot seat, they try everything. They try to make everything possible work. If Tyrone Tracy continues to be this inefficient, Scatterbo's volume is going to go up and up and up and up and up and up and up until he can show that he can take over that job.
All right, we have to talk about this one. George Kittle obviously leaving the game with a hamstring injury. And as soon as George Kittle, they're like, oh, man, George Kittle's hurt. The 49ers were like, literally, instantly, he's out. And then they snapped their fingers and and he went into street clothes. And I was like, oh, wow. They really, really were quick to say that they did not want George Kittle on the field anymore. Hamstring, not good for George Kittle. I'm no doctor, so I'm not going to sit here and try to diagnose anything on how long it's going to take. But my guess is the thing with receiving guys, usually receivers, but in this case, obviously it's a tight end. The thing with receivers and hamstrings is they tend to linger. You saw this with Mike Evans last season, and he missed a solid 6 weeks, I think, because of this. And so with Kittle, obviously Kittle had a touchdown before he even went out. But Kittle, when you're looking at his overall injury history, I mean, he has a pretty extensive injury history here. I mean, he, in the past, has missed a lot of games in his NFL career. And we're used to him in the last couple seasons, 15, 16, and 15 games. Before that, I mean, in 2020, he missed half the season. He usually misses 2 to 3 games a year. But a hamstring, again, it's more of a lingering injury. And even if he does play through it, which I would expect him to, because he's George Kittle, he's having an MRI in the next 24 hours, so we're going to know more. My panic meter for Kittle is probably a 6 out of 10. I mean, a hamstring for a guy with Kittle's injury history at 31 is just not good.
Yeah, a guy that has had injury or hamstring issues historically as well. Yeah,
I mean, it's just bad news. Yeah. Now, the reason this isn't honestly higher for me, and the reason you could even make the argument, I think, for this to be like a 4 or 5, is because
he always seems to come back.
He always seems to come back and always seems to play through it. And he's Kittle. Yeah. Kittle is tough as nails, dude. That's why I love George Kittle.
But hamstrings specifically can be just crippling.
And the fact that the 49ers ruled him out so quickly tells me that they're going to be extra cautious about even playing George Kittle.
Makes you wonder about IR.
It makes you wonder about IR. It just makes you wonder about his availability for fantasy football as a whole, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so with Kittle, yeah, it's a 6 out of 10. And honestly, I think the good news here is there are some very viable tight ends on waivers right now that you can go and pick up, and they can easily take not replace, but they can easily start for you while George Kittle is out. And so you're going to need to prioritize a tight end on the waiver wire or in trades if you lost George Kittle this week to injury. And so that is something that we're going to be keeping an eye on as well. But in terms of Kittle, it's really not something you want to see. It's really just not something you want to see. You took him in the 4th round. It's highly unfortunate because you have a lot invested in George Kittle from a draft capital perspective in your fantasy football league. And I do think I'm a little bit worried about the injury with George Kittle. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and I'm hoping that he just comes back, stays healthy, and is as productive as he is. He's the best tight end in the NFL.
Davante Adams, slow start to his time in LA. This should be the only thing that you need to not panic about Davante Adams. My panic meter for Adams is a 1 out of 10. He was the snap leader by far for the Rams at wide receiver, period. Like 55 snaps, 29 routes run, 8 targets. Puka Nicoooo only had 38 snaps. He only had 38 snaps in that game because of his whole concussion checking stuff, and he still had like 25 points. That man's a freaking machine right back here. But look, Davante Adams is going to be fine here. He had 8 targets. He actually, I think he started with like 4 or 5 targets. And he only brought in like 1 or 2 of those to start, and then he really kind of came on towards the end of the game. But this is something that you would expect, again, from a wide receiver to an offense. Like, he's going to be a little more boom bust. Just because of the role that he's going to play there. He's probably going to have really, really great games when he has touchdowns, some less great games when he doesn't have touchdowns and like red zone targets and stuff. But I think overall you're looking at, again, probably a wide receiver 2 season for Davante Adams, like a top 24 wide receiver. And you're going to have some games like this, and you're going to have some that are better than this. And you always have the worry that maybe Puka Nicoooo will miss some time because he is so crazy. Like, he is too crazy for his own good.
Yeah.
So that's again always something you're a little bit worried about. And you saw that week 1, Puka had to be screamed for a concussion, and he ended up being fine. But I think Davante Adams will be great this year with the Matt Stafford connection.
So again, some of these guys we're panicking on. Some of these guys, it's not worth panicking on. It's only been 1 week, and so honestly, the only guys Nathan and I are truly like panicked about, I wouldn't even say we're panicked, are guys we don't own because we thought they were going to be bad.
Like them. Yeah.
That's not us victory lapping. Again, we are not correct yet.
No.
So don't take it as that. I'm just saying, like,
this is a panic meter.
Yeah, we're doing panic meters for panicking. Make sure you drop a like. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. And also make sure you subscribe if you play fantasy football and you're new to the channel. We'd love to have you join the community. We're going to have fantasy football content for you all week, every week during the fantasy football season to help you win your league. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you later.